Welcome.
Oh, I got a treat for you. I bought this from a man from India. I got it at the Rock and Gym show. I went, said that his family had made bowls, and his father and his father's father. And there was this amazing bowl that had little feet print in it, and you stand in the bowl, and he hits it, and you vibrate all the way up.
Oh my golly.
And then I got 2 gongs, so you get the other one here. That one was, this is for the heart chakra. So feel that the heart chakra just coming into place. It is good to be home. I haven't been here for a while. And is that mine? Because I turned it on. I turned it off. Maybe I didn't.
Maybe I'll turn mine off. Where is it?
Can't be trusted. Everyone turn off your phones.
Good idea.
Yeah. Take it from me. Here we go. Close. There. Mystery solved there. Well, north, east, west, and south. All right? You got that?
Yeah.
North, east, west, and south. N-E-W-S.
News.
I will tell you my news. From the east, from the west. But there's something about news. And we watch it on a black screen called Tell You a Vision. And what's the program tonight? What's the programming tonight? Now, I've been gone for a while. And I was in an absolutely magical place in Mexico. And you could throw a rock in a crowd, and I guarantee you it hit a psychic, an astrologer, or a channeler, or, they were everywhere. And it didn't matter where you went. I could sit at the coffee shop, and it was called Art Coffee. Absolutely beautiful, beautiful place in a town square. And I could be drinking coffee, and I could talk to anyone that sat down there with me about astrology. It was like an astrologer's heaven, okay? And you would walk out onto it's called the Malecon, and as you walk out onto the Malecon, I would get there to see the sunrise, and it was absolutely, and there was sun gazers. You would be standing with the same people, you'd see the same people, and there's cranes out there on the water, and they stand in the same spot every day. That's their spot. And so I was the sun gazer standing in my spot like a crane out there, in the lake. And it's Lake Chapala. It's the largest lake in Mexico, and it is a volcanic. And so as I'm walking down the street as a mineral person, as a rock rapper, there was obsidian everywhere, and I had a woman said, "Carrie, can you help me find some obsidian?" And I said, "The streets are paved with it," and I'll just start picking it up, and handing her a whole handful. And everywhere I went, they were just like stars waiting for me to pick them up. I could see them like shimmering stars. And one time I walked past a bunch of guys that were fixing the road, and I did like a little happy dance, and I, oh, yay, yay, oh, you guys are so wonderful. You guys, can I have a rock? And it was a big rock of obsidian, this big. I had to leave it. There were some things I just couldn't bring with me, but I left it in a sacred place. So I'm going to tell you the news. Okay, here's the news. You know, I was in this magical land, and I'm walking down the road, and a woman comes up to me and started telling me about the news and how disappointed and how upset she was. And I looked around. I'm in paradise. I mean, literally in paradise. And I'm looking up and I'm looking down. I'm looking over this way and I'm looking that way. And I look at her and I say, I don't know what's happening elsewhere, but I know right here, this is a beautiful place. And I know right here, right now, this is peace, and this is beautiful. And I'm concerned, you know, because I see people and their thought processes, and a lot of times in the programming and in the news, there's nothing worth listening to. There is nothing worth watching. Please pay attention to this very carefully. That disturbs your peace. Nothing. Right here, right now, this is a beautiful place. Right here, right now, we are living a beautiful existence. And anything out there that would destroy that, you need to guard against it. Because we know that a lot, you know, 1 out of 1, we don't get out of here alive. Guaranteed. I promise you. We were all born with an expiration date. And that's okay. And we all have issues. We all have problems. We all, you know, every one of us here have dealt, we're all older people, and anyone and every one of you have dealt with issues that have caused a disruption in your happy zones. But they have, you know, you've come out of them. Or you've, you know, flown above them. Or you have gone through them and you came out on the other side. Do not borrow anything from north, west, you know, northeast, west, south. You don't need that. We can guard our peace. When I went to Ajijic, the universe is so amazing. I think, you know, I have a person that she says, God loves me, God loves me, God loves me, God loves me. Every time something wonderful happens to her, she's like, God loves me. Well, the universe loves me too. And so Thanksgiving, I got to Ajijic and I was there for 4 days. But I was staying in a hotel. And I was going to stay at the Namaste Village. And so I was invited by this guy who he massages feet. His name is Keith. He's a beautiful soul. And he invited me to a Thanksgiving dinner. There was a woman that he was going to take who got sick. And he says, well, who can I take? He says, I think Carrie needs to come with me. So he got a hold of me and he said, would you come to this Thanksgiving thing? So anyway, I dropped into this Thanksgiving house, this Thanksgiving dinner, and there was probably 12 people there. And I didn't know any of them but one person, which was Keith. But Keith and I didn't even sit together. He sat at one table, I sat at another table, and I chatted with these people and had a really good time. And then Keith took me into a casita, and he showed me this beautiful casita that this guy was renting. And a casita is like not the main house. There's a main house, and then there's like a pool house. It has a bathroom and a bedroom and a kitchenette and a living room. And so he showed me this, and he said, Ron's going to be renting this out, but if you're interested, maybe. And so then after that, I went up to Namaste, and I had Thanksgiving dinner with them. So I was double dipping. Anyway, I didn't starve. But anyway, I got up to Namaste, and it was communal living. And I met the people there, and I was talking to the people, but I really was more attracted to the spirit of the other people that I was hanging out with at the first dinner. And so I went and talked to Ron, and I ended up staying in a garden. It was like you walk through the rainbow door, and it was like these beautiful rainbow door. You go into this amazing garden, and I had a pool in front of my casita, and I stayed there for 2.5 months, and it was paradise. It was one street over from the Malecon, and the Malecon is where you walk right next to the lake, and it's like a levee, like you would have here at the levee, but everyone comes down in the Malecon, and it's absolutely gorgeous. And so then I was like, well, this, it just kind of worked out. It's just like the universe works out, Patrick, if you go out hobnobbing around the world, it will all work out as it's supposed to be. You'll end up in places you don't even know where you're supposed to go. You just end up there, and then you're with the herd of turtles, and there you go. And so and so then I got, someone says it was a full moon when I got there, and so and I'm an astrologer, and I knew some people that were astrology at Art Coffee, and so we got together for a dinner on one of the big buildings to watch the moon rise up. And so then when we met these people, then they said, oh, Carrie, there's an indigenous thing that is every Sunday, and you got to come to it. And so my church was the indigenous church, and it was a drumming ceremony, and you'd have meditation, and you lay in a circle, and it was just phenomenal. And so I was a religious person. I went to church every Sunday and went to the indigenous service. And it was a walk. I had to walk up the hills. So I'm in pretty good health now because I have walked everywhere and walking up and down, and everywhere that you go, you walk. And so I have walked many, many miles, and it was really good for me. And so then the person that I was living next to I was living in his casita, he was a channeler. And so I learned an awful lot about channeling. And so it was very interesting because I've never, met anyone that channels and talks to the guides. And I ended up going to their group. And so there was three or four channelers in the group, which was very interesting. And one wrote a book on channeling. I thought about you. And it was wonderful. And then I went to, they said, well, there was a tribal thing, and this is kind of interesting. It was a tribal thing, and they said, you meet with a shaman, and you meet with there's two shamans, a male and female shaman, and they do things with you, and it's like 5 or 6 hours, and you will meet your ancestors. And I thought, yeah, I've always wanted to meet my ancestors. I'm really excited about meeting my ancestors. And so it was January 12th. I went to meet my ancestors. And so I show up at this house, and I'm with this, shaman, and this other shaman, male shaman. And this female shaman was a musician. And so she's like, they're getting you ready for this ceremony. And so she's singing mantras, and so they had to, there was 3 ceremonies, and the first ceremony was a tobacco ceremony. And so it wasn't like I smoked tobacco, it was like I snorted tobacco. It was like, blow it up your nose. I mean, you literally stick this pipe and blow it up your nose, and then you're supposed to spit it out. And I was like, yeah, I wanted to pass, but I'm in for a penny, in for a pound, so I guess I'm going through the whole thing. So I did. I went through the and then spitting it out, and what I felt was just overwhelming peace. Like, it was like, I think they're trying to bring you into a meditated state in a very quick way, and this is how they do it. So they use this snorting tobacco to do so. So I okay, and I could feel this, okay, I feel really good. And then they had this other medicine, and it was like they vaporize it, and then you smoke it. And he said, now you're going to meet your ancestors. And I'm like, oh, I've always wanted to meet my ancestors. In our mind, we think of things, oh, what does my ancestors look like? Are they going to show up? They're going to look like us. They're going to, all this, would it be my grandmother, my grandfather, so on and so forth, as we think, right? And so he gave me this medicine, and I took it in, and he laid me back down, and he said, now close your eyes. And I closed my eyes, and I seen the most amazing mandalas in my life. I have never witnessed, and they were like osculating like this. And they were coming, and this woman singing these mantras. And as she's singing these mantras, I'm seeing like a pool of water, and all these mandalas are coming out of this water, and it's absolutely the most fabulous. And then I'm in this palace, and I'm just coming, and I'm being further out, and then at the very end of this amazing osculating mandalas was just one mandala, and it was set and had all this beautiful color on it. And then I woke up, and I said to the shaman, I thought I was going to meet my ancestors, but I seen the most incredible mandalas and I was in this temple, and it was water, and it was absolutely fabulous. And he said, yes, you did meet your ancestors, because that is the light that you came through to be here. And I was, wow. And so it really opened up my understanding of the art of Mexico. Because everywhere you go, you see these beautiful mandalas. You also see snakes, and you also see fish, and it's on their temples. And this was right after I had gone to the round pyramid. And so, and you would see these snakes, and you would see these air things, and you would see all these different things that symbolized what these indigenous people, when they went into their states of altered consciousness, through using whatever means they could use to come to this. And so that's where I seen that, the snake, the fish, and the frog, really big in Mexico, and also the most beautiful colored mandalas ever. And then the next one. Now I will do a disclosure here. I did not do my research. And the person that said this was what to do, they were somebody they were solid. They seemed, they were introducing me to the indigenous culture. And they were saying this is something that really has helped me. It was like taking my first breath in my journey to healing. But he didn't disclose all the information to me. And so then the guy called me, and he gave me, and I had to fill out a whole thing on my medical, and I had to talk to him for a long time and make sure that, but he was telling me, well, this is toad medicine. And so I did toad medicine. Now, toad medicine is, I guess, it's called the God molecule, okay? And this is when I went to the ceremony, and he was telling me that a warrior came to the fire, and he came to God, and he says, we want to meet God, we want to meet you. And he brought all these things, and he would feed it into the fire, but there was nothing. And no meeting of God, nothing. And then as he was doing this, and he says, what do I have to do to meet God? And a toad leaped out of the bushes and leaped into the fire, and they met God then. This is the story. And so it's toad medicine, and it's called the God molecule. And it's part of their indigenous ceremonies with the Toltecs. And so as we were doing the ceremony, this woman was singing the most beautiful mantras. And so it came to, and so after I met my ancestors, I'm like, okay, I'm ready to go. I'm ready to leave. And they said, oh no, you're not going anywhere yet. You gotta, you're gonna meet God. Okay, before I met the ancestors, now I get to meet God. And so I was like, okay. And so then this was the same thing. It was a vapor, and you held it in for 12 seconds. And so I was a little nervous. I was like, okay. And so I didn't do it right the first time, but then the second time I figured it out. But everything in me was kind of like hesitant, because it was kind of like, this is kind of scary now. And but I'm like, okay, just relax into it. Well, you know that I had a near-death experience. I've talked to you many times about that. And so when I did this, and this woman was singing the most beautiful mantras from all over the world, and as she's singing this, you're going through this process. And so it was just like a death. I could feel myself, but this is what happened. I laid back on the cushion, and the next thing I know, I'm mist. I am mist. I turned into mist. And I realized that I was nothing. And then it was gone. I turned into mist, and then with the mist, I went into everything, and I became everything. Okay, the God molecule. Here you are. And so the realization that we are vapor, and we're only here for a moment of time, and then we become everything. And we go back into the hole in which we had come from. And when I came to, and I could hear the mantras, and I could hear the singing, and I could hear everything, and the first thing that I realized that my mind, at this time, my mind turned on, and my mind was trying to rationalize what I had been through. But there was no rationalization for it. It was absolutely nothing to rationalize, because you're trying to rationalize, spirit, and sometimes that's not rationalized. It's only thing that we can do is accept the fact that, we are here, we are mist, we are nothing, but we are everything. And that's what I walked away with. And when I came to, and these two shamans were just singing, and at the very end, he was, wiping me down with water, kind of like a baptism. And it was kind of like a new birth, like I had taken my first breath, and here I was, just, and then I looked at them, and I could just feel love. I mean, and all I could say was, are you ready for this? Wow. 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 That was it. That's all I could say. I was just God's. I couldn't say anything else. I'm like, there was nothing else to say, because it was an experience, and it was an experience of a lifetime. And then after that, I've had many dreams about just real vivid dreams, and about a toad following me around, and it was just like, and I was just like, wow. And I told him of this dream, and he said this medicine was really good for you. But it was the same experience that I had when I had my near-death experience. However, I didn't have two shamans with me singing mantras. There's a whole big difference. And I can honestly say that I'm not afraid to die. I am not afraid to die. I am afraid of one thing, though. I'm afraid not to live. There's a difference. Because when we're so afraid of death, we don't live. And so live your life, and when it comes your time, it's your time. I talked to this one lady, we were in yoga, because that was a thing it was Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday. There was yoga in the Central Park, and it was a town square. And so I would show up and do yoga, 8:30, it was 8:30 to 10. And there was one of our yoga guys didn't show up, and then he was found dead in his bed. And people were like, "Oh, that's so sad." And I said, "Well, lucky guy, died in his sleep. What a treat! You go to bed, you never wake up. I mean, that's a way to go. I want to go that. I want to go that way. What a way to go, right? I mean, and the lady next to me, she goes, "I don't want to go that way." I said, "Well, how do you want to go?" She says, "I want to go with a martini in my hand." I'm like, "You go, girl. Anyway, you want to go. Put it out there, And it's like Jackie's dad, when he said, he says, I just want to die. And he says, I just want to walk off into the sunset and die. And Jackie said, well, hold that thought. And 2 months later, he walked off into the, there on the levee, and tripped and fell and hit his head, and off to the sunset he went, And so we have more control than we actually realize we have. And we are the energizing battery that creates the reality that we live in. And that's why I'm going to tell you the news. Here's the news. The news is that you guys are the bomb.com, okay? You guys are so amazing. You have so much power that you don't even realize it. And that's why it's so important that we don't fall into the program, because it needs to be your program. It needs to be what you want in your reality. It needs to be what you want to bring to you. And then another thing is, your energy is so phenomenal that you can create whatever atmosphere that you want. So let that atmosphere be amazing. Let it be fun. Let it be joyful. Don't let somebody, I had many people talk to me about the news when I'm walking in paradise, and I'm out there in the most beautiful place on the planet, and they're telling me horrible stories. And they are horrible stories. But the story that I want to tell you today is that let's make the story for us be the most amazing story that we can make. Because it is amazing. It really is. It is so cool. And when we go on adventures, it doesn't have to be like me running off to Mexico and then going to the largest rock and gym show in the world. I forgot about telling you that. That was amazing. And and you know, going to all these beautiful, then we're driving through the painted desert, and then we went to Sedona, and my sister and we went to Sedona, okay? And we stayed at this place. It was absolutely beautiful. It was Best Western or something like that. And they had a meditation room. And my sister and I became very meditative. We meditated because they had 2 massage chairs in this meditating room. So we went to the meditation room, and we laid there for hours. It was really hard for us to get out of Sedona. It was like, this is so much fun. I mean, and then we went to the church. You know, I took my sister to church. My sister's in town right now, and I can't stay that long. But so I took her to the Sedona church, and you walk up and you walk up into the Red Rocks, and it's just a very small chapel, and then you're there, and you see all these beautiful red rocks everywhere, and it's just absolutely breathtaking, beautiful. And so we went to the Church of the Rock, and then we went through the Painted Desert, and then we went through Utah and seen every magical building along the way, because we went through Salt Lake City. And we didn't stop and see, we just seen them from the road, that you couldn't miss them. They were big. And but you know, the world that we live in is so insanely beautiful because you're in it, and I'm in it, and you can create whatever atmosphere you want. It doesn't have to be geographically located. It doesn't have to be paradise by Lake Chapala. It doesn't have to be in the Painted Desert. It doesn't have to be in Sedona. Right here, right now. And I played that heart bowl for you. It's all in the heart. And there's one thing about being here, and I don't want to belabor this, but I do want to say this. There's one thing about being here. When I was in Ajijic, Mexico, I was all things to all people. I went to the astrology meetings. I went to the yoga meetings. I went to the non-vaccinated meetings. I went to the vaccinated meetings. I went to the, I did it all. I went to all of them. I went with the Republicans. I went with the Democrats. I went with everybody. I was friends with everyone. But they were not friends with everyone. But I was. And I thought about our group here. It doesn't. In our group here, we've had Democrats, we have Republicans, we have shot people, we have not shot people. We have, we come from all different, walks and thoughts and belief systems. But the wonderful thing about us is that we are not segregated, because if we segregated, it would just be us. We'd be alone. There wouldn't be very many of us. And that is the beauty of letting you be you and me be me, because if two people are thinking exactly alike, one of them is not thinking. And I'm okay if people do not see reality like I see it. And if your reality is better than my reality, I may move over to your reality, but you really have to make it sound really good. Okay? Otherwise, I ain't going. Okay? I think that we have a beautiful spiritual community here because we love each other and we accept each other as who we are. And that, I want to tell you, is true spirituality. Because I can only take care of me. And I know right now they're talking, my sister is watching crazy stuff like Epstein, whatever, whatever. But I want to say, and my sister was watching and, talking, and other people were talking about it, and yahoos and yippies from the news, okay. I think that a lot of that is a distraction. And the reason that it's a distraction is because I can't fix these guys. There's nothing that I can do to take care of them. But the only person that I have 100% control over sometimes is myself. Okay? And if these, if all this stuff is happening out there and I am focusing on them and I want to, let justice be done and, I hope they get caught and blah, blah, blah. No. It's all about you. Everything is about you. What is it in me that is causing me to feel this way? What is it that I have in my soul and in my heart that is being triggered right here and right now? You can't focus on this person or that person or this belief system, that party or this party or whatever, because everyone's having a party out there. But what is it that you can do to make your thoughts, your feelings, your emotions, your force of will to live the highest and greatest good for you right here? And my friends, that is the news.
Wow.
Carrie.